Banana pudding is a classic traditional dessert. You have that rich creamy custard, those iconic vanilla wafers, a beautiful golden meringue. It's perfect. I'm Ellie from Taste of Home, and today I'm going to show you how to make a banana pudding from scratch. This recipe comes from Jan Campbell from Mississippi. What's so impressive about this recipe is that we're making the banana pudding from scratch, and then we're topping it with this beautiful golden meringue. Let's start with the banana pudding first. We're gonna start with some sugar and flour, and we just wanna whisk that together until they're both incorporated with each other. Just get that nice and mixed together. And then from there, we're going to stir in our milk. And you just really want to mix this. We don't want any lumps, so don't be afraid to really get in there and mix it. Get all those lumps. And then once we have that nice and smooth, you don't see any visible flour lumps, we are going to turn on our heat to about medium-high heat, and you just want to stir this and cook it until it thickens. You can see that my pudding is starting to thicken. I've been stirring the whole time. Dairy has a tendency to want to settle at the bottom, so by stirring it and agitating it, we're gonna avoid the bottom from scorching. And you can see that it's really thick. The flour is doing what it's supposed to. The starches are producing this really nice, thick, velvety custard. At this point, I'm gonna turn it down to low, and I wanna cook it for 2 more minutes just to ensure it's nice and thick. So our pudding looks nice and thick and delicious. At this point now, we're going to incorporate some egg yolks, and it takes a little bit of work, but it's very easy. We're gonna take our saucepan off of the heat, and we wanna do 2 things. We're gonna continuously whisk our egg yolks. That's gonna keep them nice and loose. And while I'm whisking them, I'm going to incorporate just a little bit of this hot milk mixture. And I want to whisk as I pour. And what that's doing is loosening up the egg yolks. It's bringing them to temperature so they're not curdling. And that will bring them to temperature so when I go to fold it back into my pudding, it's all incorporated and perfect. So I'm going to pour these back in. Give it a quick stir. Get my ladle out. So I'm whisking these warm egg yolks back in and really incorporate it. And then now what we're gonna do is one more time, we're gonna go back onto our burner and we're gonna cook it on low heat for about 2 more minutes just to ensure that it's all combined and nice and thick. All right, this has been cooking for 2 minutes, so now we're gonna take it off of the heat, and we have just 2 more ingredients to add. We're gonna add some butter and a splash of vanilla, and we want to just gently stir this in until it's incorporated and all the butter has melted through. So now we're gonna build our banana pudding. We're gonna start with the pretty traditional and kind of iconic vanilla wafer. You can also do homemade if you want to. To me, store-bought is just fine. If you don't have vanilla wafers, you could also use like graham crackers is a great option. We just want to line this bottom half. So we're at the point too where like if you have these kind of awkward spots, kind of dig out some of those broken pieces and just kind of nestle them in there. They're perfect for this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not what we're looking for. And then we're going to then top these vanilla wafers with our cut up banana. We like to use a slightly over-ripened banana. They're a little bit sweeter and you get more of that banana flavor, which is really what you want in a banana pudding. I cut them to roughly 1/4 inch thick. What you're visually looking for is about the same thickness as your vanilla wafer, so that's always a good key indicator when you're cutting your banana slices. And we're just putting them right on top. And these little kind of half broken pieces, just use smaller little circles. Again, it does not have to be perfect. Perfect. And now we're going to take about 1/3 of our pudding mixture and we're just kind of draping it over. We're not trying to fully coat it. We want to save a good amount for the top at the very end, because as we do this layering, a lot of it's going to slip through the cracks and drape down all the way to the bottom. So again, this does not need to be perfect. We're just getting a nice kind of thin layer to start with. And then we're gonna go through and we're gonna repeat this process again. So we're gonna start with a vanilla wafer, do those, and then we're gonna top those with bananas and repeat with the pudding, and we're gonna do that twice. So we'll have 3 layers total. We have our final layer assembled, and we're going to top it with a pretty generous amount of our leftover pudding. We want to get a fairly even layer. Again, it does not need to be perfect. What this pudding does is we're going to give a good coating. It's going to drip down into the crevices, but then this hot pudding is going to help seal our meringue when we add that next, and then when it bakes, it doesn't shrink and come away from the edges. Some of your bananas will want to lift up, and that's okay. You can put them back. And again, it does not need to be perfect. All right, we got a pretty good layer. And then we're going to make a meringue, and that's going to get spread on top and baked until it's golden. What we're going to do is we're going to take some room temperature egg whites, and we're going to mix in some vanilla and cream of tartar. We're going to beat this together until we get roughly soft peaks. We are at soft peak stage. You can see that our egg whites are kind of slumping to one side. This is soft peak. At this point now, we're going to add sugar to our egg whites. And what the sugar is going to do is produce this really thick and glossy meringue at the final product. What the sugar does is produce air bubbles. It makes the meringue really thick and fluffy, and that's what we're looking for. We're going to add roughly a tablespoon at a time. You can kind of eyeball it. So at this point, all the sugar is incorporated. We're just gonna keep mixing until we hit a stiff peak, which means it's standing straight up on the beater. This is perfect. The sugar did its job. It's thick, it's glossy. This is gonna make for the perfect topping for a banana pudding. So now it's time to put the topping on. We're gonna take it, you wanna be not super gentle, but a little bit. We don't want to knock out all that air. We want this nice, tall, fluffy topping. So we're going to spoon it all in. It's nice and glossy. And then all we want to do is just gently spread it to the edge of the pan. We want to kind of seal it to the edge of the pan, so that'll allow it to stick to the pan and to the hot filling, so that when it bakes, we prevent it from shrinking or wanting to come back in. And the fun part with this is you can kind of create little peaks and valleys. That's gonna get nice and golden when it bakes and provides a little bit of texture. And visually, it just looks really beautiful. All right, so we have our edges sealed. At this point, we're gonna transfer it to an oven, and it's gonna bake for about 12 to 15 minutes until it's beautiful and golden brown. All right, so our pudding has baked for 15 minutes. We have this nice, beautiful golden meringue on top. We're gonna let this sit at room temperature for about an hour, and then we'll transfer it to the refrigerator and let it chill for 3 hours until it gets nice and cold. The reason we are not going to take it straight from the oven into the refrigerator is the meringue is gonna wanna shrink and pull away from the edges. So by letting it sit at room temperature, we're gonna prevent that. There you have it. It is a super easy recipe. Don't let the meringue intimidate you. It's fuss-free, and this is definitely gonna be a hit at your next party.